This is Eve.
This is Guy.
This is Virgil, and this is SaligiaCast. I'm Virgil, guild leader of Saligia.
This is Eve, the Scarlet of Saligia.
I am Gaius, the lore master of Saligia.
This is the second installment in the SaligiaCast series. The overall theme of this episode will be regarding information on Saligia itself, including general information, how to join, the overall structure, the lore, and the current story arc. For those of you who are wondering what Saligia actually is, well, Saligia is a role-playing guild made for those looking to role-play their RP characters in the upcoming World of Darkness MMO.
What does Saligia mean? Saligia is a term that has its origins in the 14th century. It is quite literally the first letter of every Latin name for the Christian 7 deadly sins. We chose the name to reflect the branches of the guild, the literal sects of sin that are in the guild, as well as the medieval origin of the name highly reflects the long history that we have for the characters in the guild itself, having their origins both further back in Rome and then much earlier in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance.
Our goal is to be like the Jihad and gain power in each city. Basically, not picking a sect, not picking Camarilla or Sabbat for newer people. And allowing your vampire to fulfill all their desires. Owning territory, showing no real allegiance to any of the sects, and so much more that we're going to be able to do in this game. That's our goal, is to be basically a bad-ass powerhouse guild.
If you are interested in joining Saligia, there are a couple of things that you should know before even applying. The first is our age limit. First and foremost, before even thinking about joining our guild, you must be over 17 years of age. This is not only due to the game having nudity and violence, but because people in our guild may be exposed to erotic roleplay, gore, and even permadeath. We know maturity may or may not come with age, but we believe that 17 is an appropriate age in which our members can act properly in a mature environment.
If you want to register and apply, all you need to do is go to SaligiaRoleplay.com and go sign up to our forum. And when you're there, and go get your email and make sure to confirm, because then you can see all the different threads, and you want to find the Joining Saligia one and read the instructions there and fill out your application. Then probably Virgil or Gaius will go over it and see if it fits our criteria, and then you get to have your initiation.
Alright, as you said about initiation, I want to go back to that in a little bit. First, the character creation. And this game is going to be huge in terms of its character creation. But it's going to be even more important for those that are a part of a role-play guild, such as Saligia. Your character comes out of a format, a biography format rather, that we give to you. You fill it out, it's like a job application, and should be treated pretty damn seriously. If what you give us is up to the bar that we hold it at, you will be accepted. Once accepted, you will go through what is called an initiation, where either I personally or someone else that is representing me will take you into a thread and they will go through an initiation. There's a short description of the initiation on our website, but I'll run you through it real quickly. You're basically going to be brought into a room. There's going to be a very quick discussion between my character Gaius and yours. We'll just call him John Doe for now. John Doe and Gaius will interact for completely whatever random amount of time, depending on whether I honestly like to RP with you or not, or want to see where it's going to go. At the end of it, you will be initiated into whatever sect that you, from the beginning, want to be a part of. but for RP reasons, it'll make it like I chose it for you. It helps my ego. And after that, you will be a member of Saligia, full part of the guild, and ready to move on with everything that we have in store for you.
If you haven't guessed it already, our structure will be based on the sins themselves. We call them the sects of sin, which include the sect of sloth, greed, gluttony, lust, envy, wrath, and pride. Each sect has a different culture, rituals, roles, and goals, all of which fuel immersion of roleplay and give people a almost patriotic view of the sect they choose. Don't get me wrong here, we are not trying to make a cliquish guild out of character. We have plenty of ways in which sects will interact with each other. For example, if the sect of envy is hosting a fashion show and needs security, they will call Wrath for assistance. There are countless ways in which the guild will be forming pacts, friendships, and even enemies in character. I will say here, before we get started on the individual sects, that each sect will have a hard cap on the amount of members they will be accepting. Some will be bigger than others, so if you thought our guild was too spread thin, we have ways to combat that. Plus, we want everyone to have a unique role in our guild, not just a number amongst us.
The background lore for the Saligia Guild is incredibly important to understanding the story that we're going to have ongoing. The most important thing, above all, is the culture of the guild itself, which takes the form of an organized crime family sort of culture, which breeds incredible loyalty to the guild family over each of the blood clans where characters might have originated in their histories. This is one of the reasons that the individual leaders of each sect, the fathers and mothers of each sin, are seen as the parent to their members below them, which they will view as children and therefore near constant inferiors that must listen to their will as a parent would a child. As it has been made clear by now, the structure of this guild is based on the 7 sects of sin. I'm going to talk about 3 of those right now. The first sect I'm going to talk about is Sloth, which in my eyes is the most important because I'm in charge of it. Sloth is pretty much the academy of Saligia. All of our new members, fresh out of an accepted character creation template, will be brought into Sloth as an initiate. As I explained prior, if you can go to an initiation and be sent to any other guild, and we'll talk about those, but there will be a select few, very few maybe, that will remain in Sloth, either because they don't fall into any other factions, the role that they wish to undertake is only within Sloth, or if they don't take part in the roleplay process, merely being advertisers or sort of ambassadors between us and other guilds. That's really the role of Sloth. We keep the new people so they can move up, and we keep the people that really have nowhere else to go. After Sloth, the next sect is Greed. Greed is the guild of the game currency. Its job is to make sure, either in character within the story or actually in the game, Saligia has enough finances to keep it running. This could come in various different forms depending on what we see in the game itself. And for that reason, most of Greed's operations will be in character and determined by the people within it. After the sect of Greed, there is the sect of Gluttony. Gluttony is the player versus environment faction of Saligia. They are the ones that would be killing the mobs, getting the spoils, and enjoying the hell out of it. They would probably be the various types of fighters that would not fall into Wrath, which we'll talk about later, and I'm not going to go into it at all. The other thing about Gluttony is it will also have those who thirst for knowledge and information within it as well, specifically in the form of mages. Therefore, the idea of the constant hunger comes in both bloodshed and information.
If you enjoy the pleasures of flesh or social role-playing, also include some erotic role-playing, then you'd really enjoy being in Lust. Um, we are a sect mostly that focuses on, again, social and, making a nice earning using your body. If you're more of an image type of person, then the Kindred and the Sect of Envy are for you. Envy runs the fashion shows and works to give Saligia a good image. They enjoy self-image, the arts, fashion, beautiful things, and this is the place for you if you also are that self-serving.
With Lust and Envy out of the way, we can start talking about Pride and Wrath. Now, Wrath, we will talk about first. Wrath, well, within Wrath, the members are creatures of aggression. This means that players of Wrath will be exposed to various types of RP and PvP, ranging from gang warfare to assassination attempts on faction leaders. Wrath is Saligia's military essentially. With its unique gang-like culture, members are constantly trying to prove themselves stronger than their brothers and sisters. If proven worthy, members may even attempt to dethrone the father of Wrath from his seat, which is the leader of the Sect of Wrath. The men and women of Wrath are guardians as much as they are barbarians. They defend Saligia's interests, and some are even hired as guards and mercenaries. And last but certainly not least, Pride. The members of Pride are creatures of ego. This means that Pride will always be the head of Saligia. A very limited amount of members are allowed to be part of this sect. During these modern nights, however, the Father of Pride will be the only member, but as time passes, Kindred will be recruited and be required to go out and be ambassadors to other groups and factions. As the highest sect of Saligia, the other sect parents always go to the Father of Pride, or just the Father, as he's been called, for the final say in any matter that will affect the guild as a whole. Anything that pertains to each individual sect, however, is the respective leader's responsibility.
The history of Saligia in character is incredibly important. And on the forum itself, we have 4 parts of this whole history that you can read. I will give you the opportunity to skip most of that for this podcast and give you a brief yet informative overview of Saligia's history. Saligia was forged from a group of Canaanite Roman nobles in the final days of the Roman Republic. This was the earliest version of Saligia, but it didn't have that name. It only had an agenda of taking the Roman Empire and scaling it up to take over most of the known world, but not for humanity's sake. These kindred wanted to carve an empire for their own kind out of the known world. There was no masquerades for them, it was only their bloodlust and their global political agenda. Hundreds of years of failed chances would ultimately lead a barbarian Bruja in charge of the order as Rome basically burned and lost most of its glory. That man would be Virgil. He would be the person that would give Saligia its name, as well as its new agenda. Saligia would ultimately survive through the Dark Ages of the Middle Ages, and ultimately reach the Renaissance. It would be during the Renaissance that Saligia would receive the fuel that would keep it alive, human vice. The Renaissance opium trade from the East into Europe would give Saligia its first chances of getting wealthy and powerful off of human vice. The geniuses of the Renaissance provided Saligia with most of its core leadership now, as well as the membership to push it forward through the upcoming troubles that would go through Europe and the world. The discovery of the New World held great possibilities for Saligia, and they joined up with the British for the chance of taking a cut out of this New World, not unlike the plans of their ancient Roman nobles who wanted to create an empire out of the world. These loyalties to Britain would remain until a new nation rose in the west, and Saligia's center of power shifted from old Europe to this new and hopefully final frontier. Soon they saw those lands expand on their own, and with that, the membership of Saligia exploded in the Western Hemisphere. The new world for Saligia was truly a land of opportunity. In the United States of America, Saligia was able to grow as it grew, through the West, through the colonization of the West, and the building of settlements. Saligia was found its modern seat of power in that American West, as Las Vegas was founded, and would ultimately, as we know today, become the glistening capital of human vice of the world. Saligia would take advantage of the commodities that existed within Vegas, the drugs, the women, the money, and all of the human vice that lived there and breathed there. Now the duty of Saligia's membership stands to maintain and advance the cause of success, while the entire guild continues to feed off of humanity's addiction to ethical ills. Before I go into the ongoing arc of the Saligia Forum story, I want to mention that there is no character sheet or the pen and paper type of play on the forum itself. It's traditional forum RP of characters interacting as if you were writing a story. The next thing I would like to say is that while we do not do that pen and paper playing, a huge amount of Saligia's forum plot is going to be drawn from the White Wolf published books, hopefully giving the stories that take place on Saligia's forum a different kind of fresher and more creative blood flowing through it than what we might see in a more rigid plot such as the game itself. This particular arc and the first arc of Saligia is heavily inspired by Hunter the Vigil. For those of you who may be listening to this at a later date, this ongoing arc begins in late April, early May of 2013, and may no longer pertain to what is currently going on if you are listening to this at a much later date. What it has followed is the story arc for the Saligia Forum roleplay from late April to early May of 2013. After an attack in Taipei, China, crippled Saligia's ties in the Far East, a hunter organization is believed to be behind it. The corporate Charon Group is sending their men to hunt Saligia affiliates around the world. As that threat develops, another has arisen in the background. One of Taipei's victims, and a human member of SWAT, was kidnapped by the previous hunter group by a Christian missionary with ties to the Catholic Church's conspiratorial hunter organization, known as the Milius Maleficarum. That organization learned from this traitor of some of Saligia's activities around the world. Convinced that their hunter rival's corporate experimentation could be a risk to their more holy methods, they decided to bring Saligia down before their rival hunters could do any more damage. When news of the SWAT betrayal comes to Saligia's leadership, it becomes clear that the Vampiric Order needs to fight a brief war on two fronts, and thus be forced to divide their assets in order to challenge the enemies worldwide before the two hunter organizations steamroll over what Saligia possesses. It is up to the members of Saligia and their leadership to ensure the security and longevity of their own organization.
I want to thank everyone for listening to this little information podcast. If you have any questions at all, feel free to comment on this YouTube page or follow us at our Twitter at Saligia Roleplay. With that said,
This is Eve.
This is Guys.
this is Virgil, and
And
this is SaligiaCast
SaligiaCast
signing off.
off.